Yu-Gi-Oh has gone through many formats and several waves of cards. From the GOAT format to the infamous Dragon Ruler Spellbook format, all the way to the current Dino Infernoble format. Many people love the game, while others see really huge issues with the game. So I've surveyed some competitive players at my locals, these guys that blow hundreds and hundreds of dollars on decks and cards, and asked them what they thought was the problem with Yu-Gi-Oh! And then came up with a combined list on what they believe the problems are. Feel free to agree or disagree with any of these statements in the comments down below. Hope you all enjoy. Number 1. The barrier to entry. This game, you already know, it's expensive. If you're playing meta-defining cards, they're gonna be triple tactical talents. Lightning Storm, we kind of don't really need this as much, but it's a really good card to have. And Forbidden Droplets, if you get a playset of each of those, at the time of recording this video, that's gonna cost you over $850. That's a lot of money that is spent on cardboard. That's a lot. So a counter argument to this, a lot of people say, is just run alternatives. Instead of Lightning Storm, just run Raigeki and Harpy's Feather Duster. Both of those cards are at 1, and Lightning Storm is essentially both of those cards in one card. And the card's at 3. Bruh. Now the alternative to Droplet, Dark Will No More. You can't kill them on that turn, but you can negate everything and not have to discard cards, so I suppose that's cool. And then what I want you to do, if you're a really budget player, and think about a time you had a local. Sit back and think about a time you had a local. Think about every single time you drew into those budget cards. You drew into Raigeki. What if you needed Lightning Storm at that time? You might have lost because of it. You drew into Dark Ruler No More. What if you did resolve Dark Ruler No More, which is it's common, that happens, and you killed all their monsters, but next turn, since you couldn't do any damage to them, they just came back and they just killed you the next turn. How better would that have been if you drew into a Droplet? These are some things to keep in mind when going along with the game. It's really not cheap, and it's a big turnoff for a lot of people. And me and all the other competitive players there would prefer not to spend a lot of money in this game, but in order to stay competitive, it's better to do so than not, which is really unfortunate. Also, building on this, by the time we get a reprint of these cards, reprint of Lightning Storm and Droplet, I'm 100% sure there's gonna be newer and better cards on the horizon. That's how Konami does it. Either that or they're gonna ban or limit some of these cards to force you, the player, to buy their product. Next thing I want to point out is this game is relatively one-sided centric. If you're playing combo and you go first, you pop off, you do all your plays, you all your combos, you pass to your opponent, can they break the board? No? Okay. You got it. If you're playing control deck, obviously you're, setting a card or playing that faker and setting a whole bunch of traps. Pass to your opponent, they normal summon a monster, negate, they do something, interrupt, they can't break your board, you got it as well. So that's one of the big problems where Yu-Gi-Oh! Back in the day used to be a very back and forth game. You attack, set a couple cards, pass. Attack, set a couple cards, pass. Use some effects, set a couple cards, pass. Nowadays, games are usually pretty fast unless you're doing control versus control or aggro versus aggro, aggro versus control. But if it's combo versus combo, pretty much it becomes a dice roll game, and or whether or not one person breaks. And this segues cleanly into a lot of competitive decks having very similar cards in the main and the side. Triple Impermanence, double or triple Nibiru sometimes in the side, triple Evenly Matched on the side, triple Ash Blossom in the main, Gamma in the main, Ghost Ogre in the main and or the side, Lancia on the side. This is a problem because all of these combo decks that keep going off, if you have no way to interrupt them, you're likely going to lose the next turn. And some decks have such a fire hand that they plow right through all of your hand traps that you play, and you still lose regardless. It's a really big issue for a lot of players, is that they can't really get to play the game. They spent hours and hours building a deck, or some people even spend days and weeks crafting a deck, and all of a sudden they have a really bad hand. They can't break the combo board deck, and they get upset because of it, and I completely understand that. Like, you can argue that, you know, rogue players, they don't necessarily have to play all these hand traps, but there's a reason why rogue is rogue and meta is meta. If you're enjoying this video so far, make sure to drop a like, comment, and subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. The fourth issue that was addressed is power creep. So power creep is the idea that Konami prints not so good cards in the beginning, and over time they print cards that are literally just better versions of previous cards. Really good example is MST Mystical Space Typhoon. A lot of people used to play it way back in the day. It was actually limited at 1 back in the time I played a while ago. I don't remember what format that was, but that was a while ago. And now it's only played occasionally, maybe in Sky Striker. Literally, Twin Twisters and Cosmic Cyclone are better versions of Mystical Space Typhoon because one kills 2 cards at the cost of discarding a card, obviously, and also one just straight up banishes a card on the field, which is a million times better because against Eldritch or against certain matchups, banishing their cards are a lot more beneficial than just destroying them. And some cards even have effects once they're destroyed as well, so you have to keep an eye on that. Another good example is a lot of players used to play Bottomless Trap Hole in their builds, and now Ice Dragon's Prison is essentially doesn't quite fulfill the same role, but Ice Dragon's Prison is 2 cards in 1. It's a DD Crow, so it interrupts their opponent's graveyard, then becomes yours, and also banishes non-targeting, by the way. 2 cards on the field with the same type. If that's not power creep, I'm not sure what it is. I understand from an economical standpoint how that makes sense for Konami because, you know, they want to stay in business, they want to make sure they sell their new product to you. But when it comes to the player, it doesn't rub us the right way because we got to keep updating our deck to keep up with the format, and obviously that's what Yu-Gi-Oh is trying to do because we don't have a rotation kind of format, but it just further hurts our wallets in the long run. Last but not least, this game is not friendly to new players at all, even to older players like me who's played on and off for a long time. A lot of these combos can get extremely overwhelming, especially when you read text or read the cards. If you look at Endymion, the Mighty Master Magician, that is literally like a book on the card, and for a lot of new players it can get really confusing really fast. And simultaneously, when you look at it on the competitive side, if your opponent is playing too fast, they could be intentionally cheating or unintentionally cheating, and a new player wouldn't catch it because all the cards have so many effects and the combos are so long, so it turns off a lot of people from the game. Actually, I'm exhausted like trying to study some combos. I was studying Infernoble combos last week and I was literally exhausted, physically exhausted learning these combos because I'm like, wow, they do so many things, have a lot of restrictions, but it took me a while to learn, and that turns off a lot of people from the game. There's actually a subreddit on Reddit that has old school Yu-Gi-Oh players in it, where they only talked about the original Yu-Gi-Oh, where it was at its prime, so to speak. I mean, it's very subjective what the prime is, but you get the drift. There's a lot of people who like it better back in the day. Overall, final thoughts when surveying all these people at my locals. Yu-Gi-Oh is a very tricky game. It's kind of hard to get into. It's expensive. It's not really user friendly. It's consistently power crept. The combos are crazy. There's a lot of reasons why a lot of people don't like modern Yu-Gi-Oh, and I completely understand with that. And I completely sympathize and can agree and disagree on some points. But if you want to make a comment, if you want to argue, you want to, you know, start some discussion down, feel free to drop a like and comment down below. I would really appreciate it. I want to generate some comments here. I want to generate some discussion. I want to see what you guys feel about literally Yu-Gi-Oh, how it is today. I'm a Captain TCG. Hope you all enjoyed. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye guys.
The world ends now.